Hey guys, how's it going? So I got in this new Sony 20mm f1.8 lens over this week, and I thought instead of just sitting inside and talking about it, why don't we get out the M3, use the lens like we are now for vlogging and taking some pictures and some video, and see how it does. So let's go for a ride. So while we're waiting on the engine to actually warm up, I'll tell you a little bit about the car if you don't know too much about it. So this is a 2011 E92 M3. It has the dual clutch transmission. So what the E92 M3 is actually most known for is its V8 up front. It's a 4-liter V8 that has a red line of 8,250 RPMs. Now it puts out 414 horsepower, but since it's naturally aspirated, you're at about 295 foot-pounds of torque. So it really likes to be up on those higher revs. And with this car, we've done a couple of little modifications just to make it a little bit more our own. So we're sitting on iBox springs, we have a carbon fiber trunk lid, and there's an FI exhaust on the car that actually is valved. So we have a remote here in the car that'll actually open it up to straight pipes. And once the motor warms up, we'll definitely do that because it ends up sounding like an F1 car. So the cool thing about M cars, if you don't already know, is that there is actually an M button inside the car where you can control a lot of the different settings inside the car, whether it be shifting speed, rev matching, steering stiffness, magnetic ride stiffness, all of that. You can actually set to your preset, and then when you hit the M button inside the car, it changes everything for you. Of course, when I get in the car, we go to full stiff on everything just to have some fun. All right, so here we are at the top of the parking deck with this 20mm f1.8. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, conditions are less than ideal. It did rain really bad last night, so everything's wet. The car's kind of dirty. I did rinse the pollen off before we left, and the sun's a little bit higher than I'd like in the sky for a shoot like this, but it does look like we are going to get some help from the clouds. So let's take some video and some pictures of the M3 and see how the lens does. So that was the quick shoot of the M3. Obviously less than ideal conditions with a dirty car and just wet everywhere, but we'll get those pictures and videos together and see how this lens performed. A couple of little notes. One, I really like this lens when it comes to video because with the A7 III, you can actually crop it down into Super 35 mode. So what you get is a 1.5 crop, bringing you to 30 millimeters. I'll show you a couple of comparison videos on how that works. I don't like using it with photo because you actually get a smaller resolution, but with video, you keep just about the same sharpness and get two different focal lengths. With the A7 III, it actually shoots at 6K and samples to 4K when you're doing full frame, and then just 4K when you are doing the Super 35 mode. So typically you will get a little bit of a sharper image shooting full frame, but that's easy to fix in post, and the 4K footage on the Super 35 looks really good. What I really like about this focal length though is how you're able to get pictures of the car without a lot of distortion. When you get down to 18-16 range, you really start to bend those lines. So this is a really good versatile lens for both exterior and interior shots that you could just bring with you and just kind of run and gun with. Ideally, I would like to have a 135 f2 shooting this car from far away to get more depth of field and not compress the car at the same time. But for one lens that wants to do video and photos, this is doing pretty well. So guys, let me know what you think of the more kind of vlog style setup for reviews. That is our E92 M3 that we just took a ride along with. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to step inside real quick, do more of the studio type setup, and let you know my overall thoughts of this lens. So let's get at it. All right, so here are my overall thoughts on the lens. One, the build quality on it is what you would expect from a Sony lens, even from their higher end series. So you are going to get things like a click on and off for the aperture ring, which is super cool when it comes to video because you can adjust the aperture on the lens itself without any noise. You are going to get that little, focus lock button that I have set to eye autofocus right now. And in comparison with the Sigma, that is around the same price range, you actually get the ability to put on screw-in filters. So you can actually use something like a graduated ND filter like I'm using on this lens when I'm doing video. One thing to keep in mind though, when you're using a graduated ND on something as wide as a 20, you're not going to be able to use it to its maximum without some kind of vignetting or some kind of X pattern. If you don't want that, you're gonna have to use a non-graduated ND filter. But if you stay around that half to lower end range, you can get away with it. And the focus distance is really short with great focus in and out, quickness, but smoothness, as you'll notice here. So it's not real stuttery. What I notice out of my Tamron on the video end is that sometimes when you go to focus like that, it could be a little bit short. It looks like it's coming in really abrupt and stopping really short. On the Sony, it doesn't do that as much. It's more of a smooth transition in, which is what I prefer out of focusing out of a lens for video. Now, obviously with photo, it's going to track perfectly fine on continuous and you'll be good to go. So what is also great about this lens, was just not so great for me because as you can see, I wasn't that great at vlogging, is that it's an awesome vlogging lens because at 20 millimeters, it can be light enough and small enough, and 1.8 gives you that distance between the background, but it's in a compact form that can actually go on an A7 III and make an A7 III a great vlogging camera. However, when you put it onto one of the A66, 6500 series, one of those compact cameras that are running on a crop sensor, you will be at 30 millimeters, so just keep that in mind. But still makes it a great video lens if that's what you're looking for. You'll notice in the pictures that I took of the car and the ones I took around the house, this has very minimal distortion for a 20 millimeter lens. If you look at some of the other reviews of the Tamron 20, that f2.8, it has a lot of bending around the edges, something that you more see out of a 16 or 18 millimeter. So what I really love about this 20 is that there's very little distortion around the edges, and it keeps its sharpness around the edges as well. Wide angles have a really big problem sometimes with softening around the edges, especially around the distortion areas. This Sony 20 millimeter does a great job of preserving what you're actually looking at. So guys, I didn't want to make this too long or too technical because there are definitely guys that are better at the technical end of things on YouTube than I am. I'm more of a use it and see what it feels like kind of guy. And I have to say, I'm glad I bought this lens. It is actually now one of my favorites, especially for video because of the close focusing distance, minimum distortion, the ability to use filters, and the fact that on an A7 III, you can go from cropped to full frame and get a 20 and 30 millimeter lens for video at the same time. I doubt I'll ever use that on the photo end because I don't like to lose resolution, but on the video end, it ended up being perfect for what I need. And it's exactly why we're shooting with it right here. So if you guys have any questions, comment, concerns, please hit up the comment section and I'll let you know what I think and answer as much of it as I can. Until then, on to the next one. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more reviews and videos like this in the future. And until then, on to the next one. See you guys. Thanks.